about that? I mean, that will be great there. They did it in San Francisco. They have it here in LA now.
They have it all over the world. In Atlanta, Miami, Chicago, here, Frisco.
I didn't know they had it in Miami. You know, I was just down there. I didn't realize they had it.
They do them actually overseas too.
I guess they're getting pretty big. I don't know.
I do indie films and shorts and stuff like that, commercials, so I do production all the time.
Oh, really? How awesome.
That's actually my passion right now. It's like I work on the weekends or whatever, but during the week, that's all we do. We do short stuff. I've done 2 features. Back in post on the second one, yeah, get ready to start another one.
1, 2, 3. This is World Dance Network, and we are here at Club Swank with Jesse Saunders. How you doing tonight?
I'm just wonderful. Just waiting to get on.
We can't wait for you to go on, actually. So to start out, tell us where you're from.
Well, where I live or where I'm from Chicago originally, the birthplace of house music, of course. Having had the first label, Just Say Records, and the very first release, On and On, I am a true native of Chicago, but I live out here in Southern California.
Well, that's
about 45 minutes outside of LA, where it's nice and peaceful, no smog, no traffic, and I can just chill.
It's nice to have you here now, definitely. So when did you first start spinning records?
Oh, God. I was about 15 years old, so if anybody knows how long ago that was, you can figure out how old I am, because I'm not telling.
We do. It's a wonderful time. So do you remember any of the first records you first bought?
First record I first bought? Oh my God, I think I was buying records since I was like 5 or 6 years old. I can't even tell you.
Well, what are some of your favorite first records? Like, what are some of the first things that you bought that you loved?
Believe it or not, I grew up like on classic rock. You know, Fleetwood Mac and America, Chicago, all that kind of stuff. So, and then of course my aunt was an avid music enthusiast, so she had all the James Brown and all that stuff. So I grew up on a mixture of different things, which also led to the influences that later on made me, segue into the types of what we know as house music today. The ingredients that are all into it, which you can find in my book called House Music, A Real Story. It defines everything. It's much better than me talking about it because I can go on and on forever. But for instance, we take you have a funk element, an R&B element, you even have a gospelish element, you've got a new wave, you've got the classic rock. I'm a true songwriter, so I believe in the melody and a strong lyric and a hook. So that was the basis of a lot of that. Then I love the diva vocals, so you love the Shaka Khans, the Patti LaBelle's, the Barbara Streisand, people like that. Even Whitney Houston today, Mariah, so on and so forth. So all of that was elements, and then we brought in the electronic element, which came from overseas like Italy, had records like Doctor's Cat, Feel the Groove, and Alexander Robotnik, and then you had Kraftwerk doing the real. And it's like if you talk to people from Detroit, to Derek Mays or any of those kind of people, they'll tell you that their influences were Kraftwerk and so on and so forth, but they all came to Chicago to hear us play, which in essence, even Juan Atkins will tell you the same thing, that was the essence of what they truly did to make techno. They just went a more industrial, harder electronic edge, where we meant more of a groovier, R&B-ish, soulful edge and things like that.
So that's what led you to go into house music and the soulful side of everything. So who were some of your first house influences?
My first house influences? Well, I guess one record stands out above all others. It was my first choice, which was a Philadelphia group on a South Soul label. And the record they did was called Let No Man Put Us Under. Everybody from Frankie Knuckles and T and everybody remixed this record, and it was probably been redone 8 or 9 times. Almost done as many times as my Love Can't Turn Around record, which has been covered 20 times now. And that's the one record that I really appreciate because it's made me get checks every month, and I really appreciate going to my mailbox to get that. So that's wonderful.
Some say that you really kind of started house music, especially with a book that you wrote on house music. Tell us about that.
Well, I made the first record. It's called On and On. I had the first label, Just Say Records, out of Chicago. It's kind of more or less an offshoot of just my personality. I've always been one to want to pioneer things, so to say. It's like people are giving me the title as originator because I always take like something and go somewhere else with it, pave the way or whatever. But with house music, I more or less fell into it from the fact of being a DJ, being on one of the first mixed shows that there was in Chicago and WGCI, and taking, like I said, different elements, different records, different styles. It wasn't like for instance, now you listen to house music, you hear house music. You listen to trance, you hear trance. You listen to progressive. Back then, I played a new wave record behind a reggae record, behind a funk record, behind a rock record. Didn't matter. As long as it was good, I played it. And what I used to segue those records was I'd make like a beat track. And I'd take them all and I'd slow it down on a drum machine or speed it up so I could fix different things in it. And the tracks that I segued with actually became popular where people wanted to buy them. And that's kind of how I got thrust into making records, because there was a store called Imports Etc. And guy in there named Frank Sells, who could like sell everything to anybody, is like, he's like total like gay guy, you know, the whole leather thing and everything, right? But it was, oh, he's cool, right? But he would say, you're playing something that we don't know what it is, but people are asking for it, and if you could make copies of it, we'd like to buy some to sell. And I was like, ooh, and a light bulb went over my head, and that's how it all came about. So.
And what was the name of the first record that you did?
Called On and On.
Awesome, awesome. We all enjoy it. So where do you see house music going in the future?
God, everything is just an evolution. It comes full circle. I look at things like trance today, what they call trance. All that is the electronic house music that we were doing back in the day. It's really the same thing. Then you look at things like techno, for instance. Techno is a harder edge to house music. All of it is a derivative of disco and new wave to a degree. It's like people look at it like new wave. Well, new wave was an element that was avant-garde. It was different. They pushed the envelope. And that's what house music is all about. You push the envelope, and that's why you've got all the what I call bastardizations of house music, which there are probably 20 or 25 of them, from two-step to techno to so on and so forth, but they all originate from the same place. And the basic groove and feel, especially like, for instance, if you look at a kid anywhere from, say, 14 to 18 years old, going to a rave or whatever, they like harder stuff, rebellious type stuff. And once they turn 18, 19, 20 years old, they come back to what the real music is all about, because you want substance. You want something that makes you feel good, takes you places and stuff. So it's really all an evolution and a circle of the very same thing that we started out with from the beginning. So.
Speaking about the kids, there's a lot of kids today that are looking to get involved in starting out DJing. What kind of advice would you give them to keep pursuing it or even get started?
You know, it's funny because I just did an interview where we were talking about how the new age kid, you know, the new millennium doesn't aspire to get a guitar and become a rock star. He aspires to get 2 turntables and become a DJ. And I'm like, if you'd have told me this 15 years ago, I mean, when we were only making $50 a night as a DJ, that this would be happening and I'd be touring all around the world and people would be interviewing me on TV, I'd have said you were crazy. But now, the one good thing that I like about this whole thing is the fact that I've been able to take something that I love, that I did in a basement just because I just wanted to. I loved making music. I was a musician from an early age. My mother had me taking piano lessons, trumpet, drums, everything, which is another fact that I think a lot of people overlooked in the beginning. They saw me as a DJ making a record, and it was a good thing as well, because being a DJ making a record, it made them aspire to be able to do the same thing, regardless of whether they knew what music was. Now, that's been good and bad in our industry. It's been good for the simple fact that it's encouraged many people to take that step and strive towards making something bigger and better. Bad in the sense that it's taken our quote-unquote music and songs to a different level, where it's repeated loops and there's no melodic structure, no song, so on and so forth. So from the purest, if you look at a record company executive, an A&R person, a songwriter, they look at this style of music and say, it's not really music, it's just loops. It's just, anybody can do it. But you tell the other 500,000 DJs and wannabe producers, songwriters making records out there, but then it's like it gives them the opportunity to be something or do something they never thought they could do. So I look at it as a good thing, and I think that it will keep evolving. People will keep doing it. It'll just grow bigger and bigger. We'll take new mediums, like, for instance, now Pioneer's just come out with the CD1000, which can emulate scratches on a CD. You've got people like John Aquaviva and Richie Houghton who've come up with the Final Scratch technology for Stanton, which is one of my sponsors, that we're doing like a whole tour with them, where they're taking that technology to make a vinyl record that emits a tone, kind of like a sympathy tone in music, where it'll trigger MP3 samples in a computer, and you can scratch them, mix them the same way. You've got another company, New Zealand, that's doing the same thing, whose technology is combined with the same thing as Pro Tools, which is like the new medium for everyone, computer-based, that they're recording on. So, I mean, people are just taking it to new levels and new heights and things like that. I myself have been through so many different styles of house music and things, where my next album's believe it or not, is actually going to be more of an ambient, chill-out album with more incorporating more spoken word and almost angelic type vocals, where I'm incorporating like percussion players, horn players that are going to tour with me as well. We'll play live on stage with a whole lighting show, video, the whole setup, just like we were a live band. That's one of the things I missed from my early days, because I think maybe 3 years after I started making records, I got signed to Warner Brothers and did a couple of albums over there. And we toured for like 3 years straight. And playing live in front of crowds and doing the whole thing and being able to improvise and go places where, as a DJ, you're limited to the record. Even if you can cut it, scratch it, mix it somewhere else, you're pretty much limited to what's there. But I want to take the best elements of what a DJ does and incorporate the same things that we used to do with a live show. And that's what it'll be our show this summer.
Well, that's great. That's where your real creative talent really does come out, and we do see that. And we want to thank you for taking the time with us, speaking with us today. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you tonight play.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Say you're watching World Dance Network, this is Jesse Saunders, and I'm out, or something like that, whatever.
Anytime? You rolling? You're watching World Dance Network with myself, Jesse Saunders, the originator of house music. Tune in. Watching World Dance Network with the originator of house music, Jesse Saunders. You're watching World Dance Network with the originator of house music, Jesse Saunders. Cool?
Awesome. Thank you.